Hey, Anke Herman back again. That's second, like take number two. I have no idea if you saw the first attempt. It kind of cut off on me because it says there's like, dodgy connection basically. So I've moved upstairs next to the router, so hopefully it'll be better. So welcome back. I did a poll in the group the other day asking what you'd like to see more of, and the clear winner was the topic how much to charge, or basically how to earn more without working even more. So I'm going to talk about that, and if you have any questions, pop it in the comments, obviously. Also, if you watch it on the replay, I learned that in another group, please type replay in the comments, because every time there's a new comment, the video gets pushed up to the top again and more people get to see it. So we'll try and be I try and be as helpful as I possibly can. Now, pricing. It's one of those topics, and it's probably the one that has the biggest impact on how much you're going to enjoy your business. Because if you're going to work your butt off and actually not really making any money, then it's not much fun, and in the worst case you actually don't really have a business. And there's really a couple of points I want to make, or basically a couple of common beliefs that I want to challenge. I want you to encourage, to challenge what you're thinking, right? And the first one, it's probably not the logically kind of like, perfect presentation first one, but the one that really gets me is the belief, and we all do it, to think that if I charge a lower price, the sale will be easier. The thing is, in my experience, that's not always true, right? It's really not always true. And to illustrate, I want to tell you a story. It's got nothing to do, as usual, it's got nothing to do with sewing. I went, I live in this village, right? And a couple of months ago or something, like we're in the local bar, and there's a couple of young kids, and we get talking, and one is saying like, I'm a photographer, right? And the kid's like 21. And not long ago, I walked through a village and you see a new shop opened up, right? And it's a photographer. And I had a closer look, and it was him. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. He's 21, right? And so I walk in, as I go, incredible. I love that that you had the guts to launch this. And okay, I'm your client, right? I need a new photo. I need a new headshot. How much is it? And he shrinks back. He gets all kind of sheepish, and he goes, €3? And I'm like, are you nuts? And he literally shrinks back even further, kind of not really sure how to take it. Like, are you nuts? He wasn't sure whether that meant this is too expensive or whether it meant it was too cheap. So he wasn't even sure. And so I said, well, okay. But I guess, well, then okay, then there's the session, right? So that the actual shoot. And I'm like, okay, now leave the crap out. What does it cost me to come in here, for you to take some photos, to edit it, and for me to walk away with a file that I can use, right? And so, well, okay. He's saying something like $15 or something ridiculous like that. And I go, okay, well, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and get my hair cut, right? And I'm going to doll myself up a bit to get this photo done. And I go to the hairdresser that I used to go to, and I walk up to the door, and I see that the place is up for rent. And neighbors were telling me that she was out of business. And I'm thinking, probably because of clients like me. Because she used to charge me like $10 for a haircut, and I'd go like twice a year. And I thought, like, all you need is a few clients like me and you're out of business in no time. So there is this thing, like there's this bottom line that you really want to don't want to go below if you actually want to have a business, right?
And now the other day, I actually went to get those photos done, right? And so now there we were, with my totally fresh haircut. I'm sitting on this little chair thing, and he starts taking photos, and every few shots he comes up and he shows me the photos. And I'm like, you know, I kind of feel like I look like a toad. He kind of got this weird angle from below, and I'm like, this isn't a photo I look forward to sharing on social media, right? And so he keeps going, and he, you know, he does a few other shots. And then I could sort of feel that he's getting sort of a bit restless, as if it's like, okay, we've been going on for 20 minutes. If I keep carrying on with you any longer, I have no benefit here at all, right? And I really felt uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable. I would have rather paid 5 times more. You know, still a reasonable price. Like if six euros or whatever the thing was going to be with the actual session, if he charged me 30, I would have felt comfortable to ask him to try different lights, to kind of try a different angle. But I felt awkward. I really felt awkward. I didn't actually want to ask him for more shots. Hello, Bolaji. Hope I pronounced that right. So basically, in the end, the photos he took, they're like 3 that are kind of reasonable, right? None of them I'm gonna probably actually use. And I thought I would have happily paid 30 or 50 instead of 6. But had a great photo. So he basically shot himself in the foot, and he didn't do me a service either. And that's actually, and it's something that I'm not, like, when it, like, let's get back to sewing. I've put my foot in like that a million times, right? So I'm not one here to preach, to say, you know, like, I know I've got this all right. I've definitely, especially in the beginning, when I thought going back with a lower price because I wasn't experienced, and I somehow in a way thought it would buy me some slack, but it doesn't. Like, people aren't going to look at that. And it was, but that same situation that will happen to the photographer, and I in the end kind of sort of shut up, but next time I need a photo, I don't go there. And I don't care that he's only charging me 6 or 3 euros or whatever it is, right? But in the end, I didn't walk out of there with the photo that I'm really happy to share. So price isn't always the first consideration. And it really helped me see it, like, from the sewing perspective, because I've done it lots of times that I thought, you know, people are looking for a low price. But then if material costs that much, then there's only so much work I'm prepared to do, because otherwise it's just kind of, there's no point to it at all. And so in the end, they walk away with less detail, maybe less little lace edging or something fancy that would have made the outfit a lot nicer, but that didn't really kind of work with that particular budget they had, or I thought they had. And so the one of the most important lessons that I learned was to never make a decision for your client. And I've done that a million times, right? So I remember a classic example. I'm going to a dance school, and there's this girl, and they tell me, oh yeah, no, she wants a bata de cola. You know, like, if you've ever seen one, they're these like long, like the skirts with a long train, ruffles up the top, up down the bottom. So they're the most elaborate garment that you can have in flamenco dressmaking. And the kid's 9 or something, right? And so she wants this bata de cola, and she'll come and say, oh, you know, I'd really like it in pink with yellow underneath. And so I show her the fabric samples, and she looks at the pink, and it's not quite the color I had in mind, right? So I go and say, well, okay, I see you want to have, you're going for that bullfight look, this really strong pink with the yellow underneath. So what I can do, the samples here with the usual commonly used fabric isn't really the color you're looking for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a look around and see whether I find something that's more along the lines of what you're looking for. And I find it. Perfect fabric. The guy in the shop didn't even want to pull out the roll because he goes, no, that's really expensive. Like for a bata de cola, you need that many, you need lots of meters of fabric. Ooh, no, you don't want that. That's really expensive. And I go, well, show me. The dogs. And so he pulls out the fabric and I'm like, God, it's perfect. The color, the shine it has, consistency, it's absolutely perfect. The only thing was, it was like at least twice or 3 times as expensive as the usually commonly used fabric. So it would push up the already expensive garment, like where I think, Jesus, I wouldn't pay that for a kid's skirt. You know, she's gonna grow out of it in 3 months. And I was like that close to tell the guy, oh yeah, forget about that. And say, you know, and call the bum and say, okay, this is what it is, and that's that. And it occurred to me to think, no, I'm not going to make that decision. So I call the mother and I say, look, there's 2 options. The normal fabric, it's that kind of pinkish color that your kid didn't really like. It's going to cost you that much. And I'm here in the shop and I've got this fabric, and I think I might have sent her a photo or something. It's the perfect color. It's the perfect consistency. Like it's the perfect fabric type. The only thing is it's like 3 times as expensive. And the mum goes, yeah, go ahead with it. I want that. Because I know the kid, it's a Christmas present, and if it isn't the right color, she isn't going to like it anyway. And I'm like, oops. You know, I was that close to not even offer it, right? And mum didn't care to pay twice as much. I later on kind of went to her home and it turns out, oh, you've got, you know, the kid's got a horse and she goes to private classes, like money wasn't an issue. You can't tell when you see a 9-year-old in a dance skirt, right? You can't tell. Like you can't tell. The point I'm trying to make is don't make the decision for your client, right? There was a question that I really liked, and it really hooks in with that nicely. Janet was saying, I want to offer quality, I want to use quality material and offer quality craftsmanship. But then it's that thing, like if I offer it too cheaply, people aren't going to appreciate the value of it, no matter how nice the fabric is. If I go too high, I might price myself out of the market. Yeah, true. But the thing is, there's only one way to find out. And I was thinking about the little photographer, you know, and I said to him, like, okay, do you want to earn double what you earn now without working more? And he goes like, you know, when you kind of start to take a breath to tell me the price, instead of 3, you say 6. So what's stopping you from saying the price that you really want to charge? You can charge anything you like, really. When you look at it, there's t-shirts for $5, and there's t-shirts, there's people who spend $500 for a t-shirt, right? So there's always people for anything in there. And usually the only thing that stops us from charging what we really want to charge is what we think the other person's going to think. And the point I'm trying to make is that you're never going to know. You're not going to know. And it's not, like, not everybody is going to be more likely to buy when the price is lower. It's another funny example in a coaching group where all these coaches, you know, they're discussing, okay, how much they should charge and how much they could charge, and same sort of discussion, you know, like, and all of a sudden somebody puts their hand up and says, and everybody's like, oh, I don't know, can I charge 200 per month or 500 per month? But well, what will people think? And, you know, all that thinking going on. And all of a sudden this guy raises his hand and says, you know what? If a business coach is charging me less than $1,000 a month, I'm not going to take him seriously. So that's the thing that we want to keep in mind, that there's people for everything. And charging lower isn't going to make it an easier sale. Hey Celeste, nice to see you. So the thing to keep in mind is that, like, and the advantage we have when it comes to pricing, like sewing stuff or anything, is we buy stuff every day. Just watch yourself buying other things and watch what pushes your own decisions for buying stuff. And because people buy what they value, what's important to them. And that's something that I often, and I've got a whole video on this, because it was this really sort of almost a pet peeve thing in a sewing group where people say, oh, I hate sewing for other people because I spend so much time learning how to sew this, and it takes me so much time to make an outfit. And then people kind of, you know, pull faces and don't want to pay it. And the bit they're missing is that, like, literally, people don't care how much time you spent on this, right? They only see what it's worth to them. All they care about is what this is worth to them. So people pay for what they value, right? And they don't care how long it took you to make it. I mean, some people might, I mean, especially the ones who sort of kind of, you know, creative and love making stuff and appreciate the time that goes into a handmade garment, you know. Yeah, but usually, bottom line is people pay for what they value. So what's worthwhile looking at, whatever you're offering, is how can that map to something that's important to people, right? And people usually tend to value something that is personal, something that's unique, right? That's why the custom-made garments, you know, when you can offer somebody something that nobody else will ever have, people tend to value that, right? Or people who have a body shape that makes it really difficult to find clothes in a shop. I remember I had this client, she was an elderly lady, she had this hip problem, so it was like her hip was kind of like really off, like, you know, and so there was one leg shorter than the other, and so her body was kind of, you know, I made her a summer dress, like literally it was a simple summer dress. She didn't ask, she didn't care what that cost. A summer dress that made her look pretty was something that she could never have in a shop. So price becomes a secondary consideration. And I'm not saying to rip her off or anything, you know, but she isn't going to push on price. So when you can offer something, you know, Christmas is coming up, right? Grandmas need a present for their grandkids. Like, if you can offer something and you have it ready before Christmas, do you think people are going to argue over the price? Right? Airline tickets go through the roof a couple of days before, you know, important dates when people really want to get home or fly somewhere, you know, in holiday seasons. And it's like, when the timing matters, price becomes secondary. When it's personalized, when it has your name on it, when it has, you know,
or when it's really personal. Have you ever seen a memory bear? I love memory bears, right? It's so personal. I don't think people haggle over the price. If you sell memory bears, let me know. But my guess would be, if you can have a memory bear made from a shirt of a loved one who's passed away, you're not going to haggle over the price for that, right? If it's personal like that, if it's something that's unique, if it's something that you really want, like a pretty dress, even if you have a size that doesn't fit into standard sizes, something you can't get anywhere. So what can you offer, or how can you position what you make in that context to make it more valuable for people? And if I look at the flamenco dressmaker one, the funny thing is the flagship product, like flagship in the sense of, yeah, it's more work than others, but God, it pays a lot more than others, is the bata de cola, the skirt with the ruffly train, and there's ruffles up the top and down the bottom, and it looks really complicated. And there aren't many people who know how to make them. And there aren't many people who know how to make one that actually is functional, means you can dance in it well. So even though it's the most expensive thing I sell, it's the one where there's literally no argument over the price ever. Because it's unique and it's rare, and it's not something that they can easily get somewhere else, right? So whatever you offer, how can you help your client see that value so that price becomes a secondary issue and you can charge whatever you want to charge? Michelle posted a photo of this gorgeous bag. Like, I want one. And see, the thing was, that bag's spectacular. If you see that posted somewhere for 140, you love it just as much as you love it when it's out there for 90. So what it really comes down to is becoming aware of the thoughts, of the thinking that's going on in your mind when you start thinking about a certain price. And yeah, Michelle was kind of talking about, okay, how much I kind of go by feel, and how much I feel comfortable charging. And I would say that's probably starting off that baseline that you've worked out. Yeah, and it's initially, I remember I measured, like I would put the stopwatch on every time I sew something. And yeah, a coffee break or a loo break, it goes in there because it'll always be there. And I always had the tendency to think, oh yeah, that's going to be quick, that's going to be a couple of hours. But when I measured it, it was actually maybe 3 hours, right? So the baseline price of those 3 hours plus the material plus whatever overhead, so that's the base. And on top of that, and then the thing to think is like, okay, how can we increase the value of that thing, right? So I sometimes found, okay, take the dress up to the theater. So they wouldn't have, especially when I know like they have little kids, and coming to where my studio was just like a pain in the butt. That's a service I can offer. That increases the value for them because it means they save time. And I remember a tailor in London, I took, like Imtath Kalik, I took classes with before I came to Spain. She then started to offer traveling tailor services. She said, well, okay, she worked with lots of bankers in the city and she had her studio further out. And it was like, okay, or you come to my studio or I come to your office at a price. And a lot of city people had more money than they had time. So they were more than happy to pay more, but didn't have to spend the time to go and see her in her studio.
So that's another thing that's worth thinking about. What value can you add to whatever you're offering, right? And sometimes it's even sort of the other way around. I sometimes have like, okay, I can make a skirt, have a matching whatever shawl with fringe and a flower. Now the flower alone, like to sell that, be like, you know, who's going to pay? If I work out the amount of time it costs me and the material and all of that, I should at least charge at least $30 for it. Who's going to pay $30 for a flower like that? But I can make a skirt in half the time, right? And sell the whole outfit for $150. And then it's, oh, okay. So they think it's, for them, it's a huge, it's a great deal. And for me, things even out. And it's worth the whole, like the package is worth it. So what you want to do is get a little bit creative. So how can you increase the value for your client, not for you, for your client, from your client's perspective? What can you offer that makes this more valuable to them? And sometimes, yeah, how can you package it? Can you throw in that is quick to make for you, but increases the value significantly for your client? And yes, it's better to sell something at $30 than not selling it at 90. So that's definitely true. Like if you find you can't sell whatever you try and make, you can't sell it at the price that you think you need to be charging to make this worthwhile, well, then you have two options. Well, maybe you have three. Okay, so who the people you're selling this to aren't buying it at that price, right? So if you don't want to lower the price, you can offer it to different people, because as we said before, there's people who buy a t-shirt at $5, and there's people who won't buy it if it costs any less than 500, right? So you can offer it to a different kind of clientele, or you change the product, right? And if you see that it's always to find the sweet spot between these three things, the things that you love doing. Okay, this is how much time it costs you, so this is kind of the minimum you have to charge. This is what people are prepared to pay for it, and that's your product. So you can change around your product, you can offer it to different people. Or you can make something different. And the thing is, if you experiment around and in the end, you kind of don't really, none of those kind of things really work, or you can't really see how you can add more value to it. Hi, Tracy. Well, then all you know is that isn't a product that's worth your while. And I've got plenty of those. I've got literally plenty of those. The doggy vests are the classic, right? I found like on Pinterest or something, I found this photo of this cute little doggy vest, and they're really sweet. And so I made one for my own dog. And, then you take out the dog for a walk, and then everybody, I want one, they're really cute, I'd love one. And so I started making little doggy vests for, neighbors' dogs and stuff. But it quickly became apparent to actually sell those, the finish, in my mind, it required to make those like a product that I feel comfortable charging for, pushed it up to a price that, I kind of, like little polka dot doggy vests, they're kind of cute, but they're not really that cute to spend a lot of money on it. So in the end, I was like, nah, for what people are prepared to pay for the little gimmick, they're not worth making. So, okay, that's just not a product. And that's fine, that's good to know. There's no reason, like, you can make something different. you know, with the sewing skills you have, you can always make something different. And if that's not something that people buy and that people are really keen on, then you make something else until you find the thing. And it's a matter of experimenting. It's not something I would almost say it's not something you can't get right straight off the bat. Right? Initially, you want to sort of try out things and find out what's lucrative and what you enjoy making and where people really can see the value, so that you can charge a price that you feel comfortable, not in a fear-based way, not as like, oh, what are they going to say? No, it's like, okay, if I can make that much, I'm gonna, you know, put up a factory and make loads of those. You know, if you feel comfortable in the sense you feel well compensated for your work, because if that part's missing, you're gonna burn out. I know. So I've been there. It's like I was like, you know, and now thinking of the time of burnout, because I thought like I'd never been like a professional dressmaker. I'd been a hobby sewer, and it's like, oh, how hard can it be? Let me start a business. And so, but there was this thing, oh, you know, I'm not really that professional, so I can't really charge that much. So I went in at a lower price, and like honestly thinking that people wouldn't be as tough on me, right? And I found that people were very, I'd say demanding. You know, I had somebody literally complain in a group of little dancers, and I don't know if you know how ruffles are made. They're circles and they're sewn together. So there's a seam, right? And that seam there was a seam sort of in the front, kind of visible. And one mother would go like, oh, you know, like that seam's there in the front. And I'm like, what? You know, like for the money you're paying, like for me to pay attention to that, this outfit I don't even know how to physically do it, but you know, like if I wanted to avoid any visible seams of ruffle joints, you'd have to pay at least 3 times of what you're paying. But she didn't care, you know? And I learned the difference when I got called for a project where somebody else had somehow bailed out last minute. And the thing was, the whole deal was already sorted out. People already, you know, and they contacted me and said, look, you know, these are the dresses we want you to make. Would you be able? And they'd go, you know, for that price, would that be okay? And I'm thinking, what? This is kind of almost double of what I charged. And I'm like, okay. You know, so it's like, I don't want them to see how kind of freakishly excited I was. And so I made these dresses, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. They're so simple, and the kids are really small. But the thing was, they were a lot less picky, a lot less demanding. Nobody grabbing the dress, looking from the inside, looking as if they're kind of desperate to find something to complain about. That just wasn't a thing. Something that I was used to from my clients who were used to paying half that. And it's something that's come back over and over again. The more people are paying, the more they assume that you know what you're doing, and the more they trust what you're doing, and almost like they need to justify to themselves that they have made a good decision, so they're not going to look for things to complain about. So it's quite funny how you actually attract a different kind of client when you charge a higher price. Now, if the price is somewhere where you really think like, oh, Jesus, you know, like when you feel really insecure about it, then there's a good chance your client's going to pick up on that, right? So that's why I often say like that in order to practice that, to practice asking for a price that you're not really comfortable with, clients that you don't really want to work with are really good for that. When somebody comes that kind of you're not really feeling kind of all too excited about, and they feel like a trouble client, and they're the ones where you can just offer them, or where you can just practice what it feels like to charge twice as what you normally charge. Because then it's a win-win situation. So they either go, oh, well, that's really expensive, and then you, thank God I don't have to work with you. Or, and my guess is you'll be surprised how often they go, okay. And you think, Jesus, I should have charged that a lot sooner, right? And then you feel better about it because I'm thinking, well, okay, if I get paid that, then I'm okay. Then I'm okay working with you. So clients you're not really keen on are a perfect practice ground to quote a price that you don't really feel comfortable charging. And most of it, really, literally most of it, when you think about it, people are paying like, $300,000 for a car. Where I would think, well, anything more than 20 is kind of ridiculous. You see, it's like, it's not for us to make the decision for our clients. You've got your baseline. See how you can position your offering to help your clients see the value in it for them. Not how much it took you to make, or how long it took you to learn the skills you need to make that, or how much the material is worth. No, what it's worth to them. Right? What is it worth to them to give the present to their grandkids that they will treasure for the rest of their lives? Right? To be the favorite grandma. What's it worth to them? So that, price becomes secondary. So I'm not saying you should be necessarily comfortable charging what you're charging, but if you can't say the number, whatever it is, with confidence. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? That they say, ooh, that's expensive. So, and when you remember that doesn't really say anything about you, or about your skills, or about your work, about you as a person. When you remember that it's literally all they say is, this thing you're offering isn't worth that much to me right now. And that's fine. That's just a valuable piece of information and nothing more, nothing less. And it's not personal. So it comes down to experimenting and to come to the point of where saying, oh yeah, okay, that works. And if you want any help figuring that out for you, get in touch. I'm more than happy to hop on a call and help you figure out how you can, because obviously without a concrete example, I can't give you a number, right? So if you want me to work with you personally on your pricing and see how you can charge more without working more, get in touch. I'm here to help. But I hope this was helpful. Let me know if any questions come up, or if it was some food for thought for you.
and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.